Welcome to the Tearing It Up podcast. I'm your host, Taryn. We'll be tearing it up, tearing it down, and tearing it apart, dissecting all things related to those who deviate from the standard. From leaders of their industry to leaders of mediocrity, and maybe a gear review or two thrown in. We shoot the shit and let the conversations flow, so if that's not your style, this may not be for you. Otherwise, listen in. Hope to light a fire in you somehow. Okay, yeah, so it says like record to the cloud or record to the computer, and I did the cloud and then I got nervous. What if something happens and I just like to have the files. I think it's easier just to have on the computer for when I upload everything together.
And then it goes out into the ether, and then aliens abduct us, and
I feel like it goes to the cloud anyway. I thought that was the purpose of paying for the subscription, but I do really quick want to start with kind of preface this podcast with just touching base about last week's podcast, not going into it or anything, but I just feel like I need to say that obviously there's still a lot going on in the world, and we get fired up so quickly on things as soon as they happen, and then you start to see the decline of awareness or people talking about these issues as much, a week or two after said events. And we're not going to be discussing anything. I mean, maybe it will come up, who knows? But last week was definitely like, we're allowing all this time to like talk about this shit. And this week we may be talking more about just general life stuff. And sometimes I just feel weird about going, like not discussing.
Without acknowledging.
Yeah, because it's very much still happening. I don't want it to be like, oh, we were just, on it because it had just happened and it was fresh. It's like, it's still.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because I feel the exact same way. And I think that the reason why there's like heightened awareness to these events and then like a decline afterwards is because we need to fucking process what the hell is going on and like try to regulate our feelings, our emotions, our thoughts, and also decompress, which is what we talked about last week. And I'm thank you for bringing that up. I'm glad that you addressed that. And I did go to that conversation about abortion the Thursday after we recorded, and it was so amazing. And it was great to see an array of people interested in wanting to talk about it. Albeit it was like an intimate setting, like a handful of people, but it was just great to see and feel the energy in this room about this topic. And you could just tell that there were so many people who wanted to say so much and had so much more to say. But we just didn't have enough time. Like holding space for those things takes up a lot of time and energy. And it sometimes you just don't have that.
100%.
But I learned a lot. And one interesting fact that I want to share about it is that I learned that abortion was not on the chopping block 40 years ago. Politicians, presidents, such as Ronald Reagan, supported it for the longest time. A lot of people in power supported it. And then 40 years ago, it was like, oh, nope, we don't support that. So there was I just think that needs to be acknowledged, that there was like a shift in consciousness. And this is a wild, wild world, and we just need to hold time for these things, but also decompress and talk about lighter subjects.
Exactly. And I think that's why we made last week, this is what we're going to do, because you do really need to be able to carve out that space mentally, emotionally, all of that stuff, to be able to discuss some of those heavy topics. So it's still very much aware. And I just would urge anybody still to yes, these are things that still matter, whether it's abortion, gun safety, all those things. And really now what the next steps are, because you will see a decline in people talking about it over the social and whatnot, is to figure out what you can do in your local area. There's some things going on around here. I know there's this campaign about wearing orange for gun safety. So I'm sure there's events going on everywhere around. So yeah, just look into what's going on around you, and of course like look into your legislation and all that, and figure out how you can make a difference at the lower levels, because that's where it all does start. So yes, on that note of lighter subjects, so I just got back from a bike ride.
Yes,
and so as far as decompressing, it's like, yes, these are the things we're very active people. We love to do the things and be outdoors, and that's a way to kind of decompress, whether, I don't know, sometimes it's a little stressful and hard. I might not be like fully mentally or physically ready for a long push or something, but there's other times that it's just like, oh my God, or most times rather, that it feels just so good to be outside and moving your body. And so I saw on your Strava that you went paddleboarding.
Dude, it was so much fun. And I'm in love with it. Sally she treated herself to a inflatable paddleboard. Good job, Sal. Kudos to you. And then I have a really close girlfriend who I have been doing adventures with since Quincy was a baby. So this amazing woman does not have kids of her own and does not want to have them, which feel it, hear it. Like everyone who chooses that, I'm so proud of
making that decision.
Yes, because I go back and forth. I'm like, I want another kid, and then I'm like, fuck no.
Yeah.
Constantly, like literally every day of every moment. It's really fucked up for some of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, she recently scored at a secondhand store here a paddleboard for a deal that she was like, I can't pass this up.
That's amazing.
And then she has a kayak. And she also has a fear of like the unknown of the water, similar to that Jess chick from that documentary Learning to Drown.
Oh, Jess Kimura, yeah.
Yes. You know how she had like that major fear of like the underwater things that are going to grab your toes.
Which is crazy because she is a very extreme snowboarder. So you just, relative perspective, it's like you wouldn't think that this fucking badass chick is scared of any extreme sport, but put her out of her element, which is like not frozen water, then it's a whole different story. But
we're complex human beings, and there's so much that happens in day-to-day life, let alone a human's life span, that like gives us our traumas and our tics and our quirks and our things, that it's like we're just people who live in these bodies. So we all went on the water yesterday, and it was just so lovely, and the mountains were out with their
beautiful. You got some sunshine?
Yes, but it was like a June gloom situation where it was like sunny, but like behind like a layer of clouds. So I got burnt, even though it wasn't like beaming down hot, clear skies.
That'll happen to our poor little Northwest skin. I still feel that way, but
God. And yeah, speaking of the Northwest, it was just such a lovely way to be like, we are so lucky to live where we live and be able to access all these nature spaces, and to unlock something like being able to have the privilege to be able to access the water, or even like mountain sports, or biking sports, like having that privilege to be able to have the tools and the resources to access all these like extreme sport adventure things that you need that cost money. It's lovely and divine and woohoo.
It is, and it is not cheap to do. I think we've talked about it before. I think at least when we did the podcast with Nikki and skiing as an adult and whatnot, but yeah, any extreme sport is not very easy to get into because of the cost of the gear and/or like a lift ticket or something like that, or just accessibility. Yeah. And I had that same thought today as I was biking to the trailhead, which is not far. It was like less than 20 minutes, but down the road. And I was just thinking of so even growing up in Tacoma and having the outdoors like right there, we did a lot of outdoors activities and stuff like that. It wasn't until really moving to Tahoe that I was just in love with how close everything is. I was like, wow, like there, it felt like everything was out the back door, you know, an hour to the mountain, hour and a half, whatever, depending on where exactly you're at or what mountain you're going to. And that felt so lucky to compared to some people. And then coming here and you're like 15 minutes from like 6 different resorts and can bike out the back door to any trail and whatnot. I'm just like, oh my God, I can never go back.
When I came to visit you, that tripped me out. And then when you were like, oh yeah, but some days when there's traffic, it takes like 2 hours to get to that place right there that I can from my fucking backyard.
Yeah, totally.
It blew my mind, dog.
I had a quick thought today as I rode to this particular trail, which is just a short, sweet loop, but it's a classic, and it's always one I really love to start the season out with because it does give you a nice little downhill, and there's some little jumps and like corners and stuff. So I feel like it is a real good one to get your feet back under you and everything. So I was like, oh man, well, it's a good thing I biked today because I might not have that much more opportunity to bike to this trail, because if we go up to the properties, you know, or when we do rather, like 15 miles away. So it's not just 2 miles down the road and back. But then I was like, well, I'm a dumbass though, too, because from the property, I can bike to like really bike out the back door to many more trails. So there's, again, just still a mix that you can get to these places. But I was just so stoked to be able to do that and get out. And the big news is I got a new bike. I finally did it. I've been thinking about it and wanting one for, well, like 2 years now. So my bike is 4 years old and it still did fine. I mean, it was still way better off than the bike I started on. But there's a few things that I just, you know.
Dude, that bike that you fucking started on, can we please talk about that? Because I remember being pregnant.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I was pregnant. And we went up to Seattle and picked up this fucking bike for your ass. And
off of Craigslist.
Rode it a few years later together, and you were like kicking the seat post down and like kicking the like derailleur to try to get it like back in place.
Yeah, totally.
Motherfucker.
Yeah, well,
man, you've come a long way. I'm so proud of you.
Totally. So the trail that we did today is called Jackass. So for any like local or yes, you did it.
Visit on a tiny man's bike. That was fucking horrifying, but I did it.
Yeah, and so that's what I started on my old bike with that trail. So I'm like, if you can do this on like this bike, then you can do it on any bike. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. And so I always tell people like, no, this is anyone who might be intimidated to do it. Like, and that's more people who are probably just really getting started in the sport or anything. I'm like, trust me, if I could do it on that old bike, like you can do it on a new bike. But
if I could do it on a tiny bike, oh my gosh, it's just so.
I've been thinking about you so much because I'm like, I just want her to come back and bike these trails again with a. I want her to bring your bike, and well, even if I keep my old bike, I haven't sold it yet, and I should, just so I can put the money towards my new bike. Yeah. And there's parts of me that want to keep it so that I have something for friends to ride if they do fly down here. But then I'm like, well, it's still kind of it's not in bad shape. I could still the chain falls off, but not all the time. And I don't know. Anyway, I'm excited and I was stoked to get out. So this is the second time I've ridden this bike, the new bike. My third.
You just got it.
Yeah, I got it last Friday, but then I couldn't ride all weekend. I was working all weekend, so I didn't get out until
life and working, or like work actually doing work
at the shop, because we had our Memorial Day sample sale, which was it's a big sale. And so I was Thursday through Sunday at the shop, and it was quite busy. And then Monday I just took off and we did some stuff around the house, like fixed,
you guys
did
have
work.
An online platform for selling things?
No. Okay. Well, our website there, you can buy some stuff through our website. But it's not all of our inventory, because we'll use a third party like platform, and just some brands don't allow you to sell stuff online. You have to be like authorized to be able to do that.
Wow.
So, and then we also have like an Amazon store, but I don't know if I'm not Amazon wizard, so I don't know if you can like actually search us on Amazon and specifically buy from us, or if you search a product like something we carry, a random water bottle or something, and it will happen to ship from us. But there's been times where we get an order and we realize like, oh my God, this person is like down the road, but they got it off Amazon, and then they realized that it was like from Tahoe Mountain Sports, and they're like, oh my God, I should like, what the heck.
Also, shout out to Tahoe Mountain Sports.
Yeah.
For us.
Yes. Yeah.
Also, let's definitely talk about me coming down to visit like this summer.
Yes.
And something else that I forgot, but continue on talking about your bike.
Well, it's new, it's fun. So I got out on it Tuesday, I think. Tuesday, because Wednesday or Monday we just did some yard work and shit around the house, and so me and my friend went out Tuesday morning and did another short little loop, but it's a lot less even less aggressive than the one we did today. So because she got a new bike too.
Yes,
and this is really what like pushed me to do it, because my friend Liz, who's like my number one riding buddy, and we barely even get to ride together. Yeah,
adventure bitch.
Our schedules are so opposite, so it's really hard. We always try, but we'll go like a month without seeing each other or something, and it's so frustrating. Yes. But she's still like my go-to. I just love to do all those activities with her, because she always has such a good
to coin
attitude.
A word or like a hashtag or a catchphrase for our adventure people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just you're one of them.
Yeah, totally.
My girl Erin, she's one of them forever. And like when you just go through those experiences with people, and like you set up like, okay, either this person is like flaky or on time and very like, so yeah, shout out to the hashtag coin term adventure buddy pal.
Yeah.
We need to figure that out.
We're at a point in life where I feel like we flake on each other kind of not really often. I feel like
understandable reason.
Yeah. And I feel like when it happens, we're both like, there's something where we both aren't really in it. And it's like, okay, it works out for both of us most of the times that we have to cancel. But I do just want to be better about trying to really make things happen and not let like little excuses or something come up. Be like, no, just pivot a little bit. So maybe I am exhausted or tired or more has come up, but maybe we can do this like shorter adventure, or just really making things happen, because just like the mental health stuff we kind of talked about last week, it's so important to get out and do those things that you enjoy and with people. So I just have to remind myself sometimes, like, no matter how tired or stressed I might be, like, look, if I go hang out with Liz for just 30 minutes, even if it turns into a little dog walk instead of a bike ride, that it's probably going to be a lot better for my mental health than to not do it. And I know that I feel like I cancel a lot because I'm either like turning like, oh my gosh, I have so much to do because I procrastinated in this or that. So I really need to work on scheduling myself better as far as my work from home job. Or it's hard for me to
with
keep
your family time with whoever your important priority person is at that time.
I don't know. I need to find a better organization way to keep my tasks at hand and to stay on them. I get so distracted like at home, or I get something done and I'm, okay, well, I don't really have to do that right now. I can do it a little bit later. I don't know. I'm struggling a little bit with my attention span and focusing. And, but I, as much as I want to say sometimes like, oh my God, I wish I need like Adderall or something to pay attention, but I really don't think it's that, nor do I want to honestly go down that route, because I just have always felt that I kind of can maybe have more of that addictive personality, so that if it works, that I will like overdo overuse it, abuse it or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't like, there's times that I like, yeah, like I said, like I want it in theory. I want that effect, but I do not want to I don't think it's bad enough. I don't think I really have a serious problem that I should look into actually getting medication or anything.
It's just more of like you having your conscientious focus towards that, which life is so crazy that it's just so hard. And there's so many, oh my God, I can't fucking even. And I feel that way so hard right now. My house is a mess. I have like 10 million things that I need to do. I've been like sick in bed for literally like the past 3 weeks with my kids.
You're still sick. That's
fucking torture. Yeah. So the reason why I keep on muting is because I'm like getting all this stuff out of my head.
That's fine. Yeah, it's hard. The overwhelming feeling. I get overwhelmed really, really easily. And I may have talked about this before, I'm not sure, but so especially in certain industries that I've worked in, like food industries or something, and where it's been really, really busy, but I still get overwhelmed, and it takes a minute. Like when I first start to see a line form or something, I can freak out in my head, but then I just have to like get into the motions and get in the swing, and I can handle it well. But I do get a lot of anxiety and overwhelmed feeling like immediately. And it can be, I feel like I keep all that inside and nobody knows, like can really see that that's happening unless I start to lose my shit, which I can start to lose my shit a little bit on people. But then I can reel it in and get it together. But I did tell somebody the other day, they were like, so it's a friend of mine too. She's making it, I don't know, I've been feeling sensitive lately. She was saying something and I was just like, kind of joking, but kind of not, about saying like, I'm a Cancer, like I am the crab, like the epitome of it. I have a hard exterior shell and I'm so soft on the inside. Like I'm so fucking sensitive and shit really does bother me, especially at just certain times, you know, whether it's just been eating at you or whatnot. All of a sudden these little things, just like, you know what, I need a little break. Like maybe just a few days of you not fucking saying that comment. I am not like a scary, mean, or intimidating person. So I just don't like being called that. I don't like being I've always had a real problem with being thought of some, I think everyone does, being thought of as something that you really aren't. And you shouldn't care what people think or whatever, but when it comes down to your character or personality,
or your workplace, or like interacting with humans that you have to interact with all the time,
just too much of it can be too much. And it's like, first impressions are one thing, right? That's why they're important, but always give people another chance. And your first impression may not always be the greatest or anything. So if you have an idea or expectation or about somebody after a first impression, you just take that, I think, with a grain of salt, depending on the situation, and give them another chance. If it happens time and time again, then you can start to put together like, this is how this person is or whatnot. But
also circumstances come into play.
Exactly. But I just just feeling sensitive lately about that stuff, and whether people are like kind of joking or not. But I don't want to be that person who then is like, oh, you can't take a joke. It's like, I can, but like you're starting to say it all the time and in front of other people, and then so it's kind of hurting my feelings. It was like, do you really feel
attack?
Like, do you really feel that way? I just wish you would stop saying it in front of like, for anyone and everyone to know, because I don't want people to already have this preconceived notion of me off of like a joke that you're making or whatever. And so it's been I don't even know, oh my God, how I got on that. It just came up.
Maybe you were thinking about like workplace and like because you were talking about getting overwhelmed, or like line form, which I was going to say, when that happens to me, I'm always just like overwhelmed. Like currently I'm overwhelmed with all of the shit that I need to do today. And I only have this small window because my kid is blah, 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 whatever. But I always try to slow down, like when I have that overwhelming feeling, and be like, I'm only one person. all these things will continually always be there, and I will get to them when I can.
Yes.
First and foremost, I just need to prioritize and like put my head down and focus and be like, okay, what do I need to get done first? Which when you are overwhelmed, yes, it's fucking hard to do that.
Yeah.
But for me, that's one of my coping mechanisms when I feel like I'm drowning.
Yes. And so, that's exactly where I got off on my tangent. So thank you for bringing that back, because
I'm here for you.
I must have gotten overwhelmed with all the feelings, but 100%, I don't handle, in my opinion, what goes on in my mind and in my insides. I don't handle overwhelm well. I've always had a lot of anxiety that, again, I think I've kept it at bay for the most part, but I just remember even being like in high school and whatnot, and it would be if I didn't have something to do, was where it would get bad, where I'm like, oh my gosh, like I need to do something and there's nobody like around, like what can I do? And then you just go into shutdown mode. And so I'm figuring out the work from home situation can be tough, because then I'm in my house where there's a shit ton I want to get done here, and I can't focus on like the work tasks, or so I either need to leave my house or make it. Sometimes, if I have a straight list, there's like no break. Like yesterday, I took a break to walk the dogs, but I had so much to do. It was super easy for me to stay more focused than if I'm like, I could do that. This won't take much time. I'm just so one or the other. I feel like I have to either have a shit ton to do or nothing at all. And when I'm in that middle, I have a harder time controlling things and not getting overwhelmed or getting anxious. But the beginning, the getting started can be hard too. When you're like, okay.
And the time allotment, and then the pressure of like the urgency of needing to get that thing done, like having I saw Elise Myers posted something that was very accurate to this situation, and she was saying that if you have a whole lot of time to get something done, you'll take your time. If you have like this tiny little window of shit to get done, then you will fucking bust your shit. So it's like motivation, time allotment, and prioritizing, procrastination, like you name it, all these things come into play, and it's really real. And I also saw that Elle Ross, who we went to high school with, she did something the other day talking about being a new mom. And she was like, what the fuck did I do with my time before this? Because so much of my time is dedicated to this tiny, teeny little human being. And like, I'm still getting all this shit done that I've been doing before, and then some, with like such a smaller window of time. And it's just the urgency and like all the factors of like time allotments. And
I had a conversation actually with my boss a couple months ago, or who knows, but I mentioned that is like, that's where I struggle, is my timing and time management. Sometimes I have a thing about time management. I want to use my time most efficiently, but there's times that I struggle with doing it for certain tasks. But when things have to get done, I'm so much better at it. And I've always been that way, like school, homework, everything. My mom always says I think she has a different idea about us with school. I don't know, that we were just like, also she's biased, but geniuses and had, no problem in school and whatnot. And because we liked school, or what, I did like school. I liked going to school. I liked my friends. I liked my activities, but I fucking hated most of my classes except for English when we could write, because I wouldn't sit down and study. I wouldn't do anything until the very last minute. I would wait to write a paper till the last minute, because that's when I feel the pressure. And I love writing. I've always liked to write, but I don't feel like I can unless I have something that needs to get done, or it's more rare to be able to sit down and just like write. It's like, oh shit, I have to do this. I'm going to bust it out. And then I can get in this mindset. And I do still feel like it's, quality. It's not just like bullshit. But it takes that pressure to get my mind working and focused, which is where I've come to the thought of like questioning, like, would I really benefit from and I think it's been talked about so much more lately, especially in adults, like ADD and ADHD. So I do have the question of like, maybe that is what I've needed.
Yeah.
But again, it's just not a way.
Try.
Yeah, and it's not something that
especially
I'm not going to go down that road until trying some other things, because again, I just don't want to have to be on I don't want to have to depend on something. But yeah, I've got to figure out some other options, things to try and help me be better. And it might just be like, I need to leave the house to work some days, which is fine. And I can do that. There's like co-working spaces around. So it doesn't have to just be like, oh, I'm going to go spend 6 hours at a coffee shop or anything. So that just might have to be my option. And I love lists, like to-do lists and stuff. I always have to write my own. And I have apps, but it's not the same as having it written down, staring at me on a piece of paper that I can physically cross off. So I still write on busy days, write to-do lists. I mean, shit, even today where I want to do my own personal chores and then do work stuff and whatnot, I will after this probably write down like laundry, dishes, that, because the act of literally marking something off feels so good. And even if it's something I've already done that wasn't on my list, sometimes I'll add it and just so I can cross it off.
You deserve it. You did it.
Yeah. But so I'm super glad I went biking today, because I was starting to definitely feel the stress. But again, that goes with this overwhelm that I start to feel at some weeks of like, oh my God, I have so much work to do and catch up on. I have so much shit to do with the house. I want to paddle. I want to ride my bike. I want to see friends. How the fuck do you fit it all in? I freak out about time all the time. And so Andrew's very different about time than I am and plans. And it is a cause of argument. And on my behalf a lot of times, because I take it so seriously. When you tell me you're gonna be here soon, like soon is 5 to 20 minutes.
Or like now, like in the next moment or two.
Or just like not having plans, and where it's like, oh, you're gonna play disc golf, like you never said that was even a chance yesterday. And so like I've been like waiting all day for you, even though I haven't. I just like start to freak out. I just start to lose it a little bit, like, wow, my whole day would have been structured fucking different if I would have known. But also this is also real life story that happened yesterday that I'm not getting into too much, but that's the gist of it. And it took some time. And once I finished my shit, I realized like, no, my day was perfect. I got so much done. I went on like a 2-hour walk with the dogs in the middle of my day. So I got outside, I got my steps in, the dogs got outside, and I got all the things. I mean, I have more to do, but I got a big chunk of my list done. So in no way should I have restructured my day. It's fine. We eat dinner at 8:00 or 8:30. Who the fuck cares? Because it's getting to be summertime where it's lighter out, and I just have to like loosen up my grip on time. And it's just really hard.
Loosen that grip, sister. But also, I saw that you posted about your vertical miles and getting your steps in and that thing. And I saw that it was a Tahoe specific thing only. And I was so bummed out, because that is so cool to have a thing to do. And if you want to talk about it more, you're welcome to.
I will bring that up. I was gonna say, just one thing. I've realized I said this to a couple of people last week or so, that I used to always think I was much more of a type B person, like spontaneous. You know, I moved to Alaska to go be a zipline guide. I moved to Nicaragua to go teach yoga, not even knowing a single lick of Spanish. I moved to Tahoe not knowing anything about it, just all these things. And I have realized that I actually think, and I think I always have been somewhat more type A, because again of this anxiety, and I've always loved lists. And if things don't go, if there's a plan and things don't go according to plan, then sometimes I lose my shit, and I can get it back together and go to the type B. But but yeah, if there's a structure and then it doesn't go as planned, I have to take some breaths and and like, okay, what's gonna happen? Like, okay, it'll be fine. So yeah, I'm just like,
in addition to that, I feel like when you're younger, you are kind of just like flying at the seat of your pants. You're like, cool, I graduated high school, I have all this freedom, I'm figuring life out. Sometimes that takes a decade, you know. As you get older and you settle down, you revert back into that stability that you had as a kid, and so therefore you need more of that structure. So it type A, type B, like, yes, we can, like, there are definitely people who are like for surely in that category,
right,
but
one
like,
or the other.
Things change as you grow, as you get old, and
it's true. And I feel like, so this is something I want to talk about as well that's been bothering me, is it's okay to change. And I feel like we don't have that idea. You're like, this is who you are, this is your personality, this is what you do. And I don't know if it's because of the structure in which our society is of go to school, get a job, get married, have kids, like that's the norm that most of us still have grown up in. And I feel like it's growing, but it's going to take a long time to really change. But it wasn't like you do a little bit of this and then maybe you go back to that. So it always feels like wrong if something is changing or reverting, instead of just like, no, this is natural to change and go through seasons of life. And that's been my tagline for a while now, is like, this season of life, because and they're, you know, who knows, they could be years long, months long, whatever, seasons, phases, whatever you want to call it.
Morning.
You may be in one that you come back to, or it may, you know, it may be a season that you never see again, who knows. But I think that's important. It's like, yeah, maybe I was more type A as a younger kid because everything was pretty structured. It was school, some sort of practice, whatever. And always having to ask to do things. I could never leave the house without saying where I was going or who I was with, or my parents talking to my friend's parents or something. So then there was like the time period of going to college and then not having that. And being
bitch,
in my 20s,
have a good time.
And moving around and not having structure. And now it's back to the more so wanting more structure because there is more going on, more responsibility. My time feels more valuable, more important. So I want more of that structure. So I'm using all my time most efficiently and never wasting time. But again, I need to let go of the
time
wasting time, like always afraid to waste time.
We're in our 30s, and like that is a insane place for a human to be, because we feel like it's like the tail end of our youth, essentially, where it's like, oh, we're still young, we're 30, it's cool. And our bodies are still doing the things, although there's stuff here and there that hurts and like all these responsibilities. It's just like that internal clock of like, oh, we only live until we're like hopefully 90, and just like thinking of how much time we have left. And like it's especially a hard part of the living scale to be,
especially being a woman in your 30s, because the biological clock too. And I do think there's plenty of times where I'm like, well, if I want to, like, I need to do all this now while I have all the freedom. There's still so many places I wanted to travel that I haven't gotten to, like abroad, anything. So I'm like, oh my God, when do I do this? Like, we have to do this now. But I also am trying to, again, lessen grip with that. I listened to this podcast with, her name is Kate. I'll probably butcher her last name, Ediger. But I followed her on Instagram for a long time, and actually one of my, do you remember Eric Anderson?
Yes.
Yeah. So he's like friends with her randomly. Like, I don't know, she's a super good snowboarder. She's like a mountain guide, and
based out of BC.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
So she was on this podcast, and it was a short little 25 minute podcast.
Which podcast were you listening to?
The Salty Club.
Is that the one where they sit at a desk and get all these like, okay.
Not that I know of. I don't know.
Anyways.
So anyway, yeah, she's on this podcast, and she was talking about being a mom because she has a son who's, I don't know, I have no idea, 8 maybe or something, but she was into all these sports prior and just talked about how one of her big fears of being pregnant was losing herself and all of that. And she's done more, you know, in the last 8 years or so of having her child, and she hasn't lost that fearlessness. If anything, it's made her stronger and this and that. And it was just so good to hear from somebody who you feel like you can kind of relate to that. And these days it's changing too. You know, you see more moms doing the extreme sports. And again, I just think that also has to do with the fact that there's more exposure with social media and things like that. But you see these pro athletes becoming moms.
Inclusivity of women in these sports.
Yeah. So you see it all happening. And even with strength training, CrossFit, things like that, you see women not only doing these sports after they've had kids, but while they're pregnant too. And instead of being treated like a fragile little egg that at a certain point of your pregnancy, you can no longer do anything. Yes. You can only do like a little bit of body weight exercises or this or that. It's like, no, you can obviously there's risks and dangers and all of that stuff, but you can still lift heavy weights. You can still ride your bike and snowboard, and yeah, you're going to reel it in. And you're only going to do the things that you feel comfortable with. If you get to a certain state in your pregnancy that you're like, I am super scared of, you know, falling and hurting myself and my baby or whatnot, then you're not going to do that. And that's fine. Yes. But if you're a pro athlete and you're super confident in your abilities, you're still going to reel it in, but you can still do the activity. And I think that it's been super cool at this stage, being in my 30s, to see that and like help me realize that it isn't just over, because it's hard not to think that because after you have a kid, I mean, you still do have a responsibility to this child for the rest of its life. And that's what scares me. But it doesn't mean that you're going to completely lose yourself, but it has to do with the time thing and feeling like I only have so little time, and if I want to be in the best shape of my life, like I have to do it now, because I'll only have a couple years to be able to enjoy it before I lose it all if I want to have a kid. And that's not true at all. There's so many women who have gained more strength, stamina, and endurance and all that after having children because of the changes that go through your body. And lastly, what I want to talk about that kind of wraps into not feeling like changes are normal, of like, yes, I can be type A, type B, whatever, go back and forth in life, is just nobody tells you that, right? No one said, like, it's like, you're this way, you have to do this, in this order. But also no one fucking tells you, I don't think so anyways, that as a woman, like, shit really doesn't change until your 30s. You really start to go through your 20s and you're like, okay, cool, not so bad, same shit I'm going through. But I'm like, your hips don't fucking grow until like your 30s. So the fact that none of us are fitting into our clothes is not just because of COVID and gaining weight. It's the physiological changes that are natural that happen in your body, and but the clothes don't change. The brands you want, the style you want, you're still searching for that, but they're not changing with you. So you're made to think that like something's wrong with you for not fitting. And it's like, no, I always wore men's jackets because the shoulders were bigger. And now in the last 2 years, like I started to notice a little bit, but the last 2 years, especially these jackets I have, like they're tight around the hips. Like, yes, men's jackets and things like that, they're made straight because of that, but they did fit and I didn't have like that much of a problem. And now I'm like, it's tight down here. Like, what can I do about that? Like, what the fuck, is that just my ass from like doing CrossFit? And it's both ass and hips. I'm like, it's growing all around. Like, why the fuck don't people talk about this and make you feel normal, instead of I've spent the last like 2.5, 3 years like feeling like I am just out of control and something's wrong with me. And I have, been on this crazy search of hormones and the naturopath and all that, which has also been very helpful. But I've also kind of realized some of this stuff is not
a problem within you. Yeah, it's a problem within like the exterior things that be. And I wanted to trace back to being a mom and doing the sports.
Yeah.
Feeling the time pressure. If you do the things that you love while being a mother, father, role model, figure, whatever, your kids see that. Your tiny people growing up see you doing that, and they're like, they form their opinions about it, and they also go along with you doing that. So they are thus more likely to do it when they get older. Like, I've taken Quincy on hikes ever since he was born because that's what I love to do. And you do lose a part of yourself after having children. You 1,000% do. But as they grow, as you grow as a parent, you find yourself, you find pieces of yourself as you grow and stuff. And like, I hope to one day do the Pacific part of the Pacific Crest Trail, or fucking all of it with my son one day. You know what I mean? Like, and that's part of being an active physical person who is a parent, and watch like your children watching you do the things. And
and even if they don't love the things you do, like you can only drag them along for so long, right? Until they start to be like, no, I actually really don't like this. Maybe this is my hobby, like reading books, doing whatever,
playing video games.
But I still think, like you said, continuing to do your favorite things from a young age will help them see, and at least get you and them used to, like, okay, this is just what happens. So maybe they do go through a time period where, like, you know, I don't want to hike, and you're like, fine, but you know, I like to. So at least now you've been able to structure your life a little more around you continuing to be able to do the things that you love. And maybe it's not with them, because especially once they get into the school age, right, you can, like, okay, at least during school, hopefully you're able to have the time to yourself, which you should always have time to yourself anyways, whether they like to do the thing with you, even with your significant other. Like, that's where I used to want my significant other to do every single fucking thing I do, and I've also realized, you know what, there's actually, it's good to not, because even if you love to do everything together, it's still important to take the time to do that yourself. Like, okay, no, I'm gonna go bike with the girls, but I could bike with you. But sometimes it makes it a little bit easier when that significant other doesn't even like the activity at all. You're like, cool, I know that like biking is always mine, yoga is always mine, like whatever it is. And then you find those things that you can do and spend time together. And I think the same goes for your kids. Even if they love doing every single thing you do, just mentally, we all need time alone or with your friends. Like, you need to always have an escape. It
also needs to be said that with doing the XYZ adventure thing with your kids, with an additional person, it's that much more complicated. Like, getting myself down to the water to paddleboard is a totally different thing than getting he, she, and them and all of the babies out to this place in the world. It's just much more complicated. And I think it's good for people at young ages to see the logistics that have to go into day-to-day life and the choices of the things that you want to do. So fuck yeah to mommies out there still doing their thing.
Totally.
They got the babies.
Yes. It's amazing to see.
I'm never more in love with my people when I see them doing the things that they love. Like, there's not a more beautiful thing than seeing a human fully submerged and indulged in the thing that brings them life. It's just such a great thing to see.
It is. And you can really feel it. I mean, I do really believe in energy, and I have also felt in the last few years that I've learned more about empathy. I'm not about empathy, like empathy, yes, like have it, feel it. There's people who are not, but of actually being an empath, where you are taking others' energy on. There's a difference between being empathetic to somebody in the situation they're going through than to be an empath, where you're actually taking on their energy. And I am pretty fucking convinced that I am an empath, and that is why I have been struggling for a few years, where I was living in a household with a couple people, that it got really hard for me to manage my feelings and emotions. And I was really letting other people's lives and the choices they were making affect me, because I was like feeling their unhappiness or in unsureness as well as being unsure about my stuff. And I just felt like I was fucking doubled, tripled, quadrupled down sometimes, because even if it was people who didn't live with me but like close friends, I mean, that's also goes to say of taking how important it is to take your own time and space, because I like literally need to either lock myself in like the bathroom, because that's the only place where I feel like I can shut the doors and no one will come in, or be gone and outside and totally alone, because I just need to like energy dump.
Yes.
And whether you like what's it called, identify, I guess, with being an empath or not, energy is real, and you're still going to be taking some on from people when energy you're just surrounded by people who don't have a lot of good energy going on. And that's where there's a couple people or things right now that I'm not like super close to or anything, but still I'm like, okay, I'm feeling in a good place, and all I'm getting or hearing from others is not good. You have to be able to remove that. You just don't want to take on everyone's negative energy all the time. And I know,
let alone battling your own negative feelings inside your own head.
And I 100% am not the happy-go-lucky, always positive person by any means. I talk shit a lot.
Me too. It feels good.
Yeah, and I can be a negative newt and all that. So I'm not
negative newt.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to sit on a high horse by any means and say that like, everything's fucking golden and kittens and all that shit. I know that I also feed into the bad negative talk and things like that, and I actively want to be better about it and be aware of it, because I want to like respect other people's energy. When someone walks in or is around me and they're in a good mood and they've had a great day, I don't want to bring them down by being like, oh, this fucking sucks, that sucks, I'm tired, blah blah blah. I want to be a lot more conscious about spewing that stuff and trying to keep my outside energy and vibe more positive, and the things that are negative, like I need to find my own outlet to go do that. Like there's the time you can go talk to somebody and dump it all out, but then it needs to be like, okay, now we've got that out, let's talk about the good things.
And like what we talked about with Caitlin when you were here was knowing where you're at when someone comes to you with something, and knowing where they're at and being like, hey, this is where I'm at, this is the capacity I have for it, and then being able to be like, okay, this is where I'm at, this is what I have the capacity for. So
that
boundary. And being honest with yourself and other people, and being comfortable with being honest with yourself and other people, because like I know there's so many times in life where you're like, I don't want to do this around this person because it'll make them feel this way, or whatever the situation is.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I really wanted to talk about it. Like we won't dive into it too much or anything, but I remember.
We won't, Taryn. We won't.
I just remember when we had that conversation at Caitlin's, and I was like, I really want to talk about this, but then we went like 3 weeks or something before we podcasted again after I got home. So I think I forgot about it. But I absolutely loved that. And I did touch on last week how it was more so like alcohol specifically, where I will draw a line in the sand if a friend is like trying to pressure me to go have a drink, and I'm like, no, I can't. I am not in a good mental state to do it. And we could have fun here, like going to happy hour, but when I go home, like that's where I might have the issue, because you just don't know what happens behind closed doors or what switch goes off or anything. So I know when it's like not good for me to I can't just do it there and then be like, okay, now I don't have any drinks and I'll be fine. Like drinking makes you drunk, and that lasts for some time.
Yes.
So,
and when you're depressed or like dealing with grief, which is a combination of emotions, it's not just happy, it's not just sad, and there's not just five stages that go A, B, C.
Exactly.
It's fucking not that. It's a compilation of like up and downs all over the place. So many feelings all at once. And you just don't know what you're going to go home to, because when you go home, that's when you feel like you can let your guard down. And sometimes when you let your guard down, ugly things come out.
Exactly.
And that's okay, because we're people.
Yeah. And so,
and life is hard, and grieving,
yeah, definitely. And I feel like I've been better about that boundary, but not the boundaries that Caitlin talked about, which she's been so good at with her role in work and telling people like, okay, like when someone says, hey, I need to talk to you, they're like, okay, well, give me a little info about what this is about, because then I'll tell you if I have the capacity for it. And you can do that with your friends. And the hard thing is we all need to respect that. And you might have a friend who does not understand that. They'll just think you're not a good friend. So it's about growth overall. And you have to be okay with a friend being upset at you, because if it's protecting your own personal self, then that's what matters most. But it's like, I have not been working on that. Of being like, look, I understand you're going through a really hard time and I'd love to be able to talk to you about it, but I can't right now. Like, I can't be your trash can. I am sorry. I want you to be able to get this out, but you can't do it to me right now
at this time.
And
I'm
also
here for you. But this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
And at the age that we're at, a lot of our people that we're closest to understand.
Exactly. And because you've gone through that, you're pretty settled, at least with your core group of people. So I feel like everybody, you know, who's close enough to understand that will get it. And, you know, it might be hard to hear, and it might suck. You really might, like, you could be my person that I want to tell you all this, and you can't handle it right now, and I really need to talk about it. Like, it might in the moment be a little bit of a hard pill to swallow, but then I will realize, like, first of all, thank you for having that, your own self-respect. And secondly, like, that might have made me find another way to get it out, which might have benefited me more than just venting all the negative shit. It might have made me process it in other ways, and be fine. But yeah, so boundaries, and again, like, things just aren't linear. So like you said, with the stages of grief or anything, and that goes back to like being with anything else, like going back and forth through seasons of life, or
a human who changes their mind.
Yeah, things are just not linear, and we are so taught on a linear scale. Yeah, like, no, this is fucking normal. Like, yeah, you go through your 20s and you should be like grown and mature and all this, and nothing should change anymore. And it's like, nope. Like, I feel like I'm going through puberty again or something, because now my body is completely changing, and I thought I was fucking done with this, and it's like, no. But so just being made to feel fucking normal instead of always being made feel that something is wrong. And even back to the ADD thing, where it's becoming a lot more talked about, I question it for myself, because I'm like, is it just because it's being more talked about, and I'm just looking for that, like, oh, this is what's wrong with me, instead of like, no, what happens in my brain is normal. There isn't always just something that's wrong, and here's the pillar solution to fix it. It's just fucking normal to have a little bit of a wired brain, or be off a little bit this way or that way. It's not always just like,
I don't know how exactly to do this, but I feel like I would like to hold space for our dear friend Becca.
Oh, yes.
Recently had a tremendous loss. And I know you're really, really good friends with her. I admire her above and beyond. Every time I see her, I just think that she is such a great human being. And I saw that she posted on her business page holding space for her brother, and acknowledging him and how much of an impact he had on her life and informing who she is and their other brother, and just the beautiful family bond that they all have. I didn't know how to acknowledge it on Instagram because it's just a totally different platform. But I'm glad that she acknowledged it, and I just want to hold space for her right now and her brother. And Becca, if you're listening, I want you to know that my heart is broken with you, and I'm here with you in grief after losing somebody very important in my life. And same for you, your dog, Taryn. Like, we all go through stages of grief and life. And I just love you, Becca, and we are here for you so much. And grief is a lifetime thing, especially with someone who you've had in your whole life.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you want to say anything.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing that up, for sure, because Becca is just an amazing human being, and it was a sudden loss for her family, and I can't imagine, and you have had a lot of loss in your family. I've been so lucky to have not dealt with a whole lot of unexpected loss. And I knew about it right after it had happened, and I'm so proud of her for for creating that space and making that
time.
And putting that on Instagram on her business page. And she did specifically kind of like address that of not being sure how she was going to, because this is her business, and she tries to keep her personal stuff separate, but this was something that you can't keep separate. And I think that was important for her to acknowledge that, it's doesn't matter if this affects your whole entire life for the rest of your life. So share it however you need to, and take all the time and space you need to. And by no means was it a announcement for people to understand like why she was taking time off or anything. It was just complete acknowledgement of her brother's life. And I think it was just so amazing that she was able to share that with everybody. And because sharing grief is just not easy. I mean, because once you do, you also, that makes it real. And I feel like it just opens up another portion of that grief when you do share it to the world. You may have been at a place of starting to maybe gain acceptance, maybe, and then it's like now you're opening it all up again, and you're going to get all the questions or comments or all the love, everything. But sometimes, that's also not easy. And we talked about that with Murray's father passing away, of grief and what you do, because all you want to say to somebody is like, I'm so sorry, because you're just so sorry that there's nothing you can do to help except for be there. And like you mentioned, of just, everyone goes through it differently. Some people may want to like have that love and be there and want the hugs, the love, the food. Other people may be like, okay, I've let you know, and now I need space. So you just never know what to do, and each individual is so different
where they're at. Where people are at. And like a lot of the times when I say I'm so sorry, and like to my mother-in-law, when I say sorry to her, like I just think of like, I'm sorry for what we are going to have to face together now as a family, and what the individual griever person is going to have to face alone in the grievance, because there's just so many moments in grief that you feel so alone, which you're going through this journey alone, but also like you do and don't have to. You just need to know where and what you need at that time. But when you are grieving, Fuck, man. It has been, oh gosh, where are we at? It has been 6.5 months since Daryl passed away. And I have lost a baby inside of me. I have lost a mother. I've lost a lot. And this loss was entirely different from the other losses that I had. And it was sudden, and it just totally affected me. It totally different than any of the other losses that I have faced. And it was just wild to experience another version of grief or loss. And I thought I was like a pro at it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like such great losses like that. I thought I was like, I fucking got this shit in the bank. But this one, it hit different, and they all do. They will. They continue to. And like where we're at in our lives, it's just gonna become more and more. And like, you don't know if the lost one day is gonna be you.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just, life is lifey.
Yeah, it is. And like you said, so I do think that everyone goes through a time in grief where they are grieving alone, whether it's something that affects the whole family. Like, yes, there are other people who are also going through the loss of this loved one, but because it's so individualized, like your grief, like there's always going to be parts of that grief that you feel like you are going through it alone, because it was that person, that loved one, you had your own relationship with them, so you're grieving a loss that no one there on some level like doesn't understand exactly.
Yes, because it's a relationship is different. Like my relationship with you is different. Becca's relationship with her brother is different, and it's all individualistic.
Yeah, so it's always gonna, like I said, overall you may be grieving with other people, but you also will be going through those parts that you're alone in that grief, because you also do go through your different phases and times of it. So again, it's normal to feel alone in that, but it's just important to know that when you are feeling alone, like knowing and acknowledging what you need. Like, do you need to process that alone, or do you need to reach out to someone who is also going through that grief or not going through it at all? Like, what do you need? And that, I think, is the most important thing as someone trying to offer help to the grieving person, is to ask them what they need. If they can give you an answer, awesome. If they can't, understand that they just may not know. But also, just because they tell you one thing in one time, that's not going to be the only thing they need. It might be different in 5 minutes. It might be different in a day, in a week. Like it's going to continue to change. So just always checking in on that. And it can be hard, especially if someone says like, no, like, you know, leave me alone, then doesn't mean like don't ever come back. Come back. And no, come back tomorrow, please. Like, or just like give me an hour, like whatever. So don't always, you know, like just
shut out.
Exactly.
And within that, Becca, baby boo, we love you and
so
we're
much
here for you.
So much.
And we just
an amazing soul. Love her so much, and all the love to Becca and the family, for sure. Just can't imagine
your bro and you. Family is in our thoughts, and reconfiguring a family after losing such a pillar is really hard, and we are here for you, friend.
100%. Yes, thank you for
I didn't know how or what to do that, and I don't know how she feels about it, but like I needed to do that.
Well, I think it was just a lovely acknowledgement, and I hope she can feel the love, because I know she needs it. But well, anyways, on that kind of note, I don't really have much else.
I don't think I do, except for Taryn. Paddleboarding is fucking tight.
Yes.
Did you sell your paddleboards?
No, so I still have 2 paddleboards for sale if anyone wants, and a bike. And I was real quick. So you mentioned that vertical challenge. So the shop is putting that on Tahoe Mountain Sports. So it is local to Tahoe. getting as much vertical gain as you can in the month of June. However, it is only running. So my walk didn't count yesterday, which I didn't seriously think that it would, or was trying to, as being a little more facetious in my my Strava title. But I did have half a mind just to track it as a run and be like, fuck you, who cares how slow I am? Like, I'll never win.
Fuck you.
I'm not trying to win, because I also don't feel like I want to. I don't have the time. Okay, I shouldn't say that. Whatever. That was stupid to say. That's not my goal, is to get the most vertical gain in the month, especially via running, because there are so many other things that I want to do that I know I wouldn't be able to win, or placing in this challenge doesn't matter to me at all. But I would like to, kind of participate, considering my job as a marketer, and I work at the shop, so I like to participate in all the activities. But
so was this vertical challenge were you part of the person that was like on the board of like making this happen? Like, was this your idea, or like
no, it was Dina Fit, the brand. They came to us about doing this Strava challenge, and we've done challenges similar to this through just different times and whatever. So we were like, yeah, sure, we'll be a part of this. It was going to be something different, just a segment at first or something, I can't remember, but it didn't work out with Strava like linking it the way they wanted to, so it just became a max like vertical gain in the whole month of June. So you have a month of June, and the top like woman and man will get a whole kit from this company.
Dude, that's such a sweet set.
It is, but there's like around here so many like runners, so I know for sure that I would never come close to winning it unless I loved running and spent a lot of time doing it, but I don't.
You would come close in my heart, Taryn.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, we've got a couple other things going on this summer, so it's fun to do and be a part of, and it's gonna get real busy here real quick. But
bro,
well, we can talk about this obviously off the podcast, but I have a little dream of trying to get a box suite at the Reno Aces baseball game, because they play the Tacoma Rainiers on my birthday. So
fuck
like,
yeah, we're coming on your birthday. Wait,
like, call Hillary. Wait. Hillary said something about she like looked at tickets or something on that around that time, but you guys should totally fly.
I always get yours and Karina's confused. Yours
is the 6th.
Damn,
hers is the 10th. Yeah,
I always so we're coming back from Mexico on your birthday.
Oh, okay. Well, that'll be
maybe Quincy and I could fly to California
and just stop there.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll figure out when we can get you down, but
okay, anyways,
yeah,
the Rainiers are coming to Reno.
They're actually here this weekend. We're going to the game Saturday because Andrew's mom's company is having a little thing there, so it worked out awesome that they were playing the Rainiers, so they'll be here Saturday, and then they're here next month on my birthday. So yeah,
I might not be able to make that happen, but we have got to make a trip. Like July, I'm coming to visit you.
Yes.
August, I'm coming to visit you. Like we really need to like talk this out.
Yep. Try. I mean, your hardest. Just point at the calendar, pick a day, and let's just do it.
I will fucking see you in Tahoe.
Totally.
So if you don't sell your bike or your boards.
Well, I have plenty of boards still. I just need to sell these 2 particular, but I still have
to talk about if Andrew or his mom would want to like babysit Quincy, so we could go do the things.
Oh yeah, I'm sure we can figure something out.
A mountain bike ride.
Yeah, totally. We'll figure something out. Okay, well, awesome. We, as usual, we're all over the place, but I love it because I think the general theme was it's normal. However you're feeling. I mean, unless it's not, there's obviously a spectrum for sure. There are times you need a little bit of help on one thing or the other or whatnot, but for the most part,
there's some days where you don't know what you're feeling more than others.
Yeah, totally.
It's okay.
Yes. All right. Well, we'll talk very, very soon. And thanks everyone out there in the ether for listening.
Including the aliens.
I love it. We hope you enjoyed this episode and would do us a huge favor, since we don't have any sponsors or anything like that, and would rate and review us on whatever platform it is you use, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, whatever it is. And if you're listening and downloading just through the website, tearingituppodcast.com, leave comments. We'll definitely engage back with you. And on social media right now, we're just on Instagram. Tearing It Up Podcast is the handle. Like the post, share the post, comment on the post, whatever it is you got. Show us your love so we just stay relevant and show up in the rankings at all. So again, rate and review, please. And we'll see you next time. Thanks.